Diana here. I am a therapist and I want to talk to you guys a little bit today about making the most of a relapse. Now, I'm going to be talking primarily about pornography here because that's the clientele I primarily work with. But really, this can apply to any addiction and any habit that we're trying to break. The principles are really the same. So, this has been on my mind a lot this week because last week I had a client relapse. Now, he has been doing incredibly well. He has been, probably hasn't viewed pornography in 6 months. He just started college. He has a phone. He has a laptop. He's doing fantastic. So, last week he went out with a group of friends. It was a new group of friends. He didn't know them very well. And a conversation started about pornography. And the conversation kind of kept going, and there was debates happening, and basically what it ended up with was they were talking about how the pushback that porn is getting right now is really the conservative agenda, and if you're normal, you should be able to handle porn, and you should be able to watch it, and there shouldn't be all of this kind of pushback against it. You know, regular people should be able to handle it and watch it as they please. So, he's sitting there not wanting to kind of out himself at all, also not wanting to seem like one of those conservative people who can't handle pornography with this new group of people that he doesn't know. So he's sitting there, the conversation keeps going, he doesn't say anything, and in his head he starts to kind of buy in. Then he starts to kind of make justifications for why porn is okay. You know, I was raised in a conservative family, I should be able to handle this. Like, I'm a guy that should be able to manage this. Like, why can't I? I should be able to. So then, that starts to move into him planning on how he's going to do it. He knows that his devices are all blocked, and he's taken a lot of time to do that. So then he starts planning, well, how can I get access to something where I could look up porn? Well, my brother's laptop doesn't have the same blocks that I do. You know, I bet if I ask him, you know, to borrow it for a little bit, I bet he would let me. So then he's moving into planning, and he relapsed. So he calls me. He's feeling terrible. He's feeling worthless. He's feeling like, well, I knew it. I messed up. I couldn't do it. I've been doing so well, but I knew that it wouldn't last. He's feeling awful. So we walk through. We go back and we walk through all the little steps that it took for him to get to that place where he relapsed. All the little things that happened, all the thoughts, all the steps, everything that led him to that place where he relapsed. So clearly we identified that the trigger was this conversation he had with his friends, right? This conversation led to him thinking all of these thoughts about really making justifications about why it was okay for him to view porn. And we know in our prior work together we had identified his cycle. We listed out his cycle in depth. He knows that making a justification for why watching porn is okay is the first part of his cycle. He's moving into that cycle, and he knows he needs to do something about it. But he didn't, right? He didn't do anything about it. It wasn't even on his radar that he needed to. He just moved into it and moved into planning, and then ended up relapsing. So, we knew that was the trigger. We knew when he started going into his cycle. We knew multiple steps he could have intervened and didn't. So then we took it back even further. What happened before? What happened before he went into that night? Well, he hadn't slept well the night before. He was tired. He was hungry. He hadn't had dinner yet. We had also identified that going into a group of new people was a high-risk zone for him because he tends to feel anxious around new people. He doesn't know what he's going to, what's going to happen. And he also tends to be in his head a lot more. So he went into a high-risk zone with multiple vulnerability factors that set him up to kind of be in a place where he wasn't able to handle all of this as well as he could have otherwise. So, our main takeaways from this were, 1, he shouldn't go into high-risk areas with really any vulnerability factors that he can control. Okay? So, we know that, and that's pretty easy to fix. The next one is that really his awareness needs to be higher of when he's going into his cycle. So, as soon as he makes a justification for why porn's okay, that's a sign that he needs to do something because he's going into his cycle. And that's the easiest place to stop it because it's the very start. So, We know that, and we knew that before, but with this, and with real life examples, we're able to list out exactly what that looks like, exactly what my thoughts are, exactly what justification or excuse making looks like for me. So my awareness is a lot higher. So when that comes up, I can say, oh, yep, this is what we talked about. I need to do something right now to stop this from going further. The other thing that was really helpful, that probably wouldn't have come up otherwise, was he needed to talk through some scenarios of when he gets into a conversation like this, how do I exit a conversation? Or what do I say that can kind of shut a conversation down or kind of remove me from having to go through this conversation? So we identified that with his close friends that know what's going on, it's easy. We did talk through some ways that he can reach out to them more. So in this scenario, he could have texted a friend that knew what was going on or stepped away and called them and kind of used them as support for him in this situation. And they could have kind of walked him through it and helped him not go into those, justification thoughts. So he could have used his close friends that know what's going on more. The other thing he could have done was he could have said something. He could have said something that sort of owned enough of the conversation that it could shut it down a little bit, but didn't start a debate, which is a really important piece. Because if he would have just said something like, some people really struggle with porn, and it's a problem for some people, that could have started a whole nother layer of the debate, right? Which is not a safe place for him to get into, especially when he's already feeling like he wants to be one of those people that can watch porn, but he's not. So we don't want to start a debate or start a conversation more. So he felt that it really would have been respected with this group of people if he said something like, you know what, guys, I totally get what you're saying, but porn has been a struggle for me, and I know that I can't go there at all. I just can't watch it at all. And I don't really want to talk about it more, but for me, I can't go there. So that's him being real. It's him owning a part of it, and also saying like, nope, no more, I don't want to talk about it, I don't want to debate it, over, right? So he felt like that would have been received really well if he said that. But he wasn't prepared before to be able to kind of have something like that ready, so he was comfortable saying it. He was just all in his head and in his thoughts. We also talked through how do you get out of conversations where it's not safe to own it at all and it's not safe to say anything. You just have to get out of there. Maybe it's work. Maybe it's people that you just don't want to get into that conversation with at all. How do you just remove yourself from that conversation? So we were able to look through multiple kind of layers of people and of friends and identify ways that we could get out of situations or kind of come up with little scripts that he could have ready. So if he gets into that situation again, he's able to say something that shuts it down and doesn't let it get into the next phase of his cycle. So really, after walking through all of these things and after identifying his vulnerability factors and raising his awareness around his cycle and getting kind of scripts ready for when he gets into a situation like this, he can be ready, he now feels better than he did before. He feels better than he did before the relapse because he feels more prepared. So we were able to use this relapse as a way to make his recovery stronger and him stronger. So that's the big takeaway from this is you're likely going to relapse. It's probably going to happen at some point. And if and when it does, you can use that to learn more about yourself. Learn about the holes in your recovery plan and how do you fill those so you're able to move forward and really be a stronger person next time. So, Elevated Recovery has a PornReboot program coming out that walks you through every step of getting into recovery. And one of those pieces is learning from a relapse. Now, I kind of skimmed over this here, but we go through it in detail. We give examples, we give you a worksheet, we walk through everything in detail. So you know exactly how to come out of a relapse stronger than before. So please check that out if that seems like something that would be helpful to you. Some people find it useful to also do therapy as they're going through the program or have a coach walk them through the program. we basically can offer any of those things. We can offer them separate, we can offer them together, whatever works best for you, we can make that work. So please, if you have any questions, or if you need help, or you just don't know what to do and you're kind of struggling, reach out to us and let us know, and we'd be happy to help.